So the expectations, I think, is where sometimes we find ourselves in trouble because we will have higher expectations than the situation calls for. Don't get me wrong, I think that you should go into a situation with your blended family where you are believing for the best. I don't think you go in there thinking that, everything isn't going to work correctly, and I think you work toward that. However, I think you have to assess your situation and determine, okay, are my expectations realistic? My children were teenagers when my husband and I got married. To me, it was unrealistic for me to believe that as teenagers they were going to be so ecstatic about their new family. They're already trying to find out where they fit to begin with, even in an intact family. Even in an intact family, you have your teenagers are transitioning. They're going through things. They're trying to find out who they are. On top of the fact, if you're not in an intact family, you're now trying to find out where you fit in this new blended family. But I do believe that what will help in the transition is the adults being more willing to try to help with that blend. The other part though is you can't force other adults to do what your desire is per se. You may desire that, but if that's not their desire and they're not necessarily in support or as excited for the blend as you are, they're not going to be as willing to do some of the things that you would necessarily do that would cause you to get out of your comfort zone or out of the box. Do you understand what I mean?
That's understandable.
Yeah, because in your situation, your in-law, your mother-in-law, was very welcoming to your son.
Yes.
He was 1 year old. To her, that was her grandson because your husband didn't have any children previously.
Right, correct.
Right, and then in other families, it doesn't happen as easily. I know for me, with my stepson, he was a baby, and my family has seen him just as they see my biological children. He's the aunt. I'm sorry. My aunts are his aunts. My uncles are his uncles. Our cousins are his cousins. He doesn't even. To him, there's no step. We don't say your step siblings, and I think I said that earlier. We don't say step siblings, step aunt, or any of that. It's just we're family.
Right.
And I think when you respond that way, you act that way, it makes the blend so much easier. And I think your expectations have to line up with the situation. And when you're finding yourself having these expectations that are higher than what you expect, your feelings sometimes will get hurt, because you're thinking, oh, well, I was thinking this was going to happen and it didn't happen. And then why is it not happening? Because you don't accept my child, and then now you're in your feelings about it, and arguments come out, or, frustrations come out, or feelings are hurt because you have a certain level of expectation that was never discussed at the beginning. I often say to people that, you have expectations of something that you never even discuss. So they may be taking the side of precaution because they don't want to step on anyone's toes. And then while they're doing that, your feelings are hurt when it really wasn't because they didn't accept your child. It was more so because they was trying to respect the fact that they know that child really isn't blood or the age of the child, and they don't want to offend anyone. And sometimes when they're trying not to offend, offense happens. So and what would you say to someone who is in that situation?
Definitely same scenarios and things that I've experienced. I also think that their age takes a huge factor into consideration.
Right.
As you said before, my son was only 1 year old when he did become to know and meet my mommy-in-law, who wasn't even my mommy-in-law at that time.
Right.
So they gained that relationship. They established a relationship at such a young age as to where your children were a little bit older.
Right.
As to where their feelings come into play, or their attitude, their whatever their experience in school. They're establishing a social life, a life of their own at that age.
Right.
So it is definitely a little harder to come into a relationship with a new aunt. Right. Or with a new uncle. Right. Or this is my cousin now. Or
right. Exactly.
Scenarios of that nature. So
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how are things with you and his bonus mom?
Myself and his bonus mom are still, again, a little rocky, a little messy.
Okay.
Not as what it was when it initially started. I
Okay.
think we had a wonderful relationship in the beginning. At times when I couldn't get through to him,
Mm-hmm.
I would contact her.
Oh, wow.
And
You know, it's funny that you say that, because the other day I was interacting with another mom who, her spouse actually wants that opportunity where he is able to connect directly to her ex, to talk about custody, talk about visitation, to organize all those things. And I was completely like, no, wait, hey, hold on now, that's, overstepping boundaries. So it's interesting that you guys did that. So
and in the beginning, before the later years, and then back into the court situation and things of that nature took effect. Prior to all that, we had a really great relationship.
Oh, wow.
Like I said, I would reach out to her if I needed him on a particular day or hour. And he and I were
Right.
I would actually reach out to her. Hey, this is the situation. This is what I'm asking. I'm trying to be understanding. Can you help? I would literally get a call back from him. Seconds, hours later.
Oh, wow.
Okay, all right. I'm like, okay, this is good.
Right.
But of course that was early on in the years. A little later, like I said, things got messy.
Okay.
No one wants it. No one wants the drama in their lives.
Right.
But, I mean, it happened. It came about, and all we can do is move forward from here.
Right.
Again, I only want the best for the future for our child.
Right.
He should be able to call on his bonus mom. He should be able to reach out to his bonus dad. He should be able to reach out to his biological dad and his biological mom at the same sense, and be able to get results or answer or response.
Right. I totally agree.
But when relationships are sticky and messy. It's hard. It's hard on the child.
Right.
It's hard on their siblings. It's hard on the children that we do not have in common.
Right.
It's hard on the pets.
The pets. So you're doing with the pets.
Yeah, the pets.
And I understand totally what you're saying. It's a blessing for me because I do have a decent relationship with my bonus son's mother. And I'm so appreciative of that because it is important. It's important for the children involved. I respect her position as his biological mother. She respects my position as a stepmom. And I think that's what has made our relationship healthy from the beginning. In our very first conversation that we had with each other, we expressed that. And I pray that it stays that way, and from when he gets in his teenage years, and when he becomes an adult, I pray that it stays that way because it does make the situation so much better when the parents, all the parents, like you said, the bonus parents, the biological parents, everyone's able to get along. It makes it so much easier, especially the holidays are coming up. It's so important for that. The holidays are coming up, and then you're having to split the time. Depending on what your visitation is. Sometimes you don't even get to see them, or they get to spend time with their siblings if there are any. Unfortunately, it will be great if parents are able to come together and say, hey, we can have a holiday together. We can have a holiday at my house this year. Next year we'll have it at your house, and and put your differences aside for the sake of the child, because these are memories that you want them to have. You want them to have good, healthy memories. Whether the relationship with you and the ex worked out or not is irrelevant. It has nothing to do with. It should have nothing to do with the relationships that you individually have with the child. The more people that are involved in their life, the more people that love them, it helps fill that void. It helps of them not necessarily having both parents in the home. It really does. If they know that they're loved in all different spaces, whether they're with mom, whether they're with dad, whether they're with their bonus mom, their bonus dad, and they're not being pulled from here or there and feeling like they have to choose who to love, that makes the situation so much better. And I know even in your situation, you have probably experienced that. You understand that because at a time where things were peaceful and you weren't having that issue, and how great it was for your son as well as for me. I know what it's like, when there's that moment of peace, and everyone's getting along, and again, to me, that's one of the expectations that I don't think is above. I don't think that's an expectation that's unrealistic.
Right.
Because we don't have to be lovey-dovey, kiss each other, give each other a bear hug every time we see each other, but we can be cordial. We can, hi, how you doing? You want to come in and, spend a little time in the house over here, or you want to, we should be able to do that, for the sake of the children. Now, when I say spend time, I don't mean spend time, unhealthy time, in your ex's place, but I think it's very good to be able to, as a family, meaning, your husband and wife going into the ex's home with the children and whoever else, if it's aunts, uncles, cousins, or whatever, siblings, being able to spend that time together as a family. Like you said earlier, there was a time where you had your birthdays at your house, and then he had his birthdays at his house. And like you said, when the wedding comes, there's going to be one wedding. Yeah. We're not having two weddings, so why not learn that now? And make it a healthy situation, for your kids.
We did have a few birthdays together. All four of us.
Okay.
But like I said, when the relationship got messy,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, the courts were back involved.
Mm-hmm.
It just
Right.
more drama.
Right. and I'm a firm believer that we really shouldn't have to use a judge to determine how much time we spend with our children, how we should act as parents. I know when my ex and I were going through the process of divorce, in our divorce agreement, I was very open because I understood the importance of his relationship with them. I knew that our marriage was over, but his relationship with his kids wasn't.
Of course.
And so it was very important for me to make sure that our custody arrangements was set up so that he was able to see the kids as he pleased. I mean, I even went down as far as saying, like you had mentioned about the detail, during the week, if he ends up getting them, my only requirement was making sure that they did their homework and they were dropped off at school on time. That they went to bed at a decent hour so that they weren't sleepy the next day. And whether or not he utilized that was his decision, but it was available. I think it's important because you're doing what's in the best interest of the child. The best interest of the child is trying to make the situation as normal as possible, as healthy as possible. And being able to come together and talk about those things, talk about when the children are having problems, and being able to come together and figure out a strategy without having to go hire an attorney, go before a judge to tell you what's best for a child that they don't even really know.
Oh,
they don't even really know.
Tell me about it.
What I mean. You've experienced that.
You said the attorney word. That is the golden word, literally, because she got all of my gold, all of my money. I had nothing left, literally. The amount of money that both he and I poured into our individual attorneys could literally fund his entire college career, his entire college education. It would have completely funded the amount of money that he poured into this entire situation, and the amount of money that I poured into it.
Wow.
His entire college would be covered.
Yeah, I don't think people realize
covered.
That. Yeah, I don't think they realize how much money they're investing in something that really should be free. It should be free. I should not have to go pay someone to tell me how to parent with you. We should just be able to sit down and compromise. Attorneys are making so much money on people who don't want to compromise. They look for us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they look for us.
I was definitely a target.
Right. Yeah, and of course they're gonna sell you a pipe dream and tell you all the things that they're gonna try to get you or work for you. And you go in and not all the times you're gonna get exactly what you went in hoping that you get. And like you said, all that money you would have just spent could have been used for something that was very important later on for his education. Most parents can't afford to pay for college, and you really can't afford it if you're paying for an attorney,
Right.
all the time.
Yes. Not to knock my attorney. She did an excellent job.
Right.
Love her to pieces. But it literally all of my money, all to her.
Yeah. That could have gone to your son's future.
Education.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's that's important, I think, for people to hear, because I'm sure there's somebody right now who's probably in the process of about to go to court, and again, when we say this, we're not saying in a situation where you don't have visitation, or you're not getting enough visitation, or you're not you're dealing with parent alienation or other things that are not in the best interest of the child. We're not saying, don't go to court for those things. That's not what we're saying. We're saying you shouldn't have to. We're saying these things shouldn't even exist. I shouldn't have to worry about whether or not I'm going to be able to see my child. I shouldn't have to worry about begging you for that. I shouldn't have to worry about whether or not you're going to manipulate me or try to control me to get me to do things that you want me to do, because you're still harboring bitterness and you use my child as a pawn, or my children as a pawn, to get what you want. I shouldn't have to go to court, for those things, for those kind of reasons. Those things shouldn't even be on the table. The relationship is over, deal with it. The relationship didn't work out, deal with it. The relationship was never a relationship, deal with it. We're all adults. I think we have to accept the choices that we make in life, and hooking up with people that wasn't in it as far as a commitment. Even myself, I married and my marriage didn't work. Well, there were things that I knew before I got married that probably would have given me the warning that I would have gone down that path to begin with. We get in these situations and we then cry wolf when it doesn't turn out the way we want it to, and then we're dealing with the consequences for the choices that we make, and then we try to make the child pay for it. It's not my children's fault that my marriage didn't work.
It's no child's
fault. Right.
Fault.
It's not my child's fault that I hooked up with someone and they decided that they didn't want to be with me, or I decided that I didn't want to be with them. The child is here now, and we're still both of their parents, whether the relationship exists or not. And I think that is what a lot of people have a hard time with. I'm a part of a blended family group, and a lot of what I hear has to do with women or men being scorned, men not healing, women being scorned, and what do? They use a child as a pawn. Me, I'm not using a child as a pawn. First of all, I need my breaks. So I'm like, when you come in, right? You want to be right? Exactly. Yeah, you late, right? I'll see you soon. Right. I'm not.
I think all moms need a break.
Right.
So
and I do remember going through that process at the beginning of my divorce, where it was very difficult for me when my children would go to their fathers every other weekend. I remember I'd be sad, I would be crying because me too. Yes. I would cry. I was I missed them. I was so used to having them with me all the time. Unless they went to a friend's house, but it was something different now, so it was hard for me. And I remember being in the house one day and I was thinking, what? You know what? I'm going to start taking advantage of this alone. I'm getting to know me. I learned things about me that I didn't know before. I learned the things that I like to do, outside of the kids, whether it was going to skate or whether or not it was going to get a massage or a spa day, or I don't have a problem going to the movies by myself or going out to eat by myself. I enjoy my company. But I learned that after the divorce, during the time where my children were going to visit with their father. So I think it could, if you allow it and you don't try to use the kids and try to keep them, because again, what benefit is it? What benefit is it to say, you know what? Oh, you ain't going to see your dad today because I'm mad at him, or he didn't pay his child support today, so you're not going to see him.
There is no benefit.
Right.
It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit the child.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't benefit dad.
Right. Exactly.
It's time lost.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So, do you have any other lessons learned that you want to share?
Oh no, I've definitely been through it all. I've definitely seen a lot, but at the end of the day, bottom line, children are affected. That's it.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
Yep.
Well, thank you again for joining me today, and I really
Thank
appreciate it. I
you.
look forward to talking to you again.
Of course,
I know
definitely.
that everything is going to go wonderful with your blended family. I believe that great things are going to happen for you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the video today. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.